Right, guys, so today we're going to be talking about how Goku can affect this year's election. So, what I want to do is I want to start off with a little bit of Goku's journey, right? So we can better understand this. So, we have to start at Dragon Ball. So, in Dragon Ball, Goku is an orphan boy with a monkey tail. And it turns out that he actually killed his grandfather when he turned into a giant monkey. But he doesn't find that out until later. But as when he's a boy, he meets this girl Bulma, who's like a city girl that's in search of these Dragon Balls that can grant you wishes. So eventually, what happens is that Goku and Bulma team up and they go on this great adventure. Eventually, Goku starts to be trained under Master Roshi. Now he goes a bunch of training, and he actually meets one of his long-term best friends, and that's Krillin. And in there, he also learns the Kamehameha wave and a few other techniques that he uses, as we see him develop. So, as the story progresses, he enters his first martial arts tournament. And that's really when Dragon Ball picked up the pace when it came to fighting. It became more of a fighting anime than necessarily like an adventure anime. So, the last tournament in Dragon Ball, Goku faces King Piccolo, and he also goes after the Red Ribbon Army, which are like these kind of like a gang of organized crime that does a bunch of evil stuff. So he takes them on. He defeats them, and eventually he has to battle this other threat in King Piccolo, who then is really Piccolo. He has an offspring. So Goku defeats King Piccolo, who's the evil bad guy that, threatens the earth. And then he births Piccolo Jr., who's the Piccolo that we now know in Dragon Ball. So a bunch of stuff happens, and then he actually ends up facing Piccolo Jr. in another tournament. And he wins that. And by this point, Goku's a teenager, and he's much older. So that's pretty much Dragon Ball. And then we start Dragon Ball Z. Goku, I think he's like 24 at the time, something like that. He has a son, and I think Gohan is like 3 or 4 at that time as well. And this is where a lot of people think that this is like peak Dragon Ball, if you will. So in Dragon Ball, we first start off with the Saiyan Saga. Turns out that this new threat comes into the earth, and it turns out that this guy's name is Raditz, and he turns out to be Goku's brother. Goku ends up having to fight his own brother, ultimately having to give up his life in order to save the earth. He's actually killed by Piccolo, who we got to know in Dragon Ball. But in this whole thing, we find out that the Saiyans, which is Goku's race, right? We find out that there's more people like Goku. It's going to be coming into Earth in a year's time. So Goku has to train in the afterlife while his buddies train on Earth in order to defeat this new threat that is coming. And this is where we meet Vegeta, who also becomes one of Goku's greatest allies, as we continue to see. But anyways, the Saiyan threat comes to Earth. Goku has to defend the Earth. His friends get all beat up. Piccolo ends up dying. And the only ones left are Krillin, Gohan, his son, and himself. And ultimately, they end up defeating the Saiyans. Vegeta runs away, and the Earth is safe again. And then we start with the Frieza saga. And here the Dragon Balls come back into play. They need to make wishes, but since Piccolo's dead, they can't do them on Earth. They find out, there's this other planet that where Piccolo's from. We can maybe find some Dragon Balls there. So that starts off the new saga. They go to planet Namek, and this is where we start getting to know about this other evil threat called Frieza. And Frieza wants the Dragon Balls for himself. He wants to take over the world, and we find out that this dude has been suppressing the Saiyans and treating him basically as his slave army. And we get a lot more background about Vegeta and how he grew up and how marginalized the Saiyans were We get a glimpse of Goku, his father, who was also killed by Frieza. So now Goku has a lot of motives in order to go after this evil Frieza. And Frieza in here goes through like 3 or 4 different transformations. And we keep on hearing about the Super Saiyan. We don't know what it's like. We don't know what it is. And then eventually, while Goku is fighting Frieza, he turns Super Saiyan for the first time. And this is one of the most iconic moments in anime history. This is where all of the transformations that you see in anime history come from. The changing of the hair, it goes from black to yellow. And we see this Goku that's all decked out. Ultimately, Goku defeats Frieza, defeating the threat. They're able to go back to Earth. They wish everybody back, and that's when you understand that in Dragon Ball, death doesn't matter. So then we fast forward now to the Android and Cell Saga, and here we get some time travel happening where this guy named Trunks, which we later find out is Vegeta's son from the future, comes back to Earth to try to help Goku because in the future, Goku dies from a heart attack. Like the greatest fighter on Earth gets killed by a flu of the heart. So anyways, I think it's a heart attack. So anyways, Trunks comes back. He gives Goku the medicine. The androids are battling. Cell appears, which is not something that happens in the future. So we're starting to see a brand new timeline. He's like this perfect being, right? Or he wants to be the perfect being, and he's trying to get rid of anybody that's not perfect, essentially. So Goku and his friends have to fight him. A bunch of story happens. We meet Android 17, Android 18. Krillin falls in love. A lot of good stuff. We get some imperfect Super Saiyan forms. But eventually, what happens here is that Goku dies again. He sacrifices himself to save everyone, leaving everything to his son Gohan. And this is when Gohan does one of the most iconic transformations after Super Saiyan, which is Super Saiyan 2. And this is like peak Gohan. After this, you're not going to see anything better. In Buu, he gets a little bit better, but it's just not the same, you know? So they defeat Cell, and then we fast forward to the Majin Buu saga. Now, in Majin Buu, right, in this saga, Goku returns briefly from the afterlife to kind of train some of the fighters that are fighting Buu. Goku reveals that he has a Super Saiyan 3 form, which is like even greater than a Super Saiyan 2 and has even more hair. One of the most iconic transformations in terms of look that we see. We get fusions, a bunch of different techniques that happen here. And, you know, it's the same story. These guys have to fight this evil. Eventually, Goku does end up coming back and defeating Buu with a spirit bomb, Henkidama, which is this technique where he asks everybody to praise him, and everybody gives him like exaltations and glory, and they give him his ki, and then eventually he destroys Buu. This is considered one of the weakest saga in Dragon Ball history. And then we fast forward to Dragon Ball Super. So there was a huge hiatus where nothing happened. There was GT, but you know, that's not considered canon. And in here, we get the kind of like the god forms now, getting a little anti-biblical, where you have gods and, you know, destroyers. And here we see Frieza also comes back, and now he has a new form. He has Golden Frieza. We have this tournament where this like super blue god little thing, it has a tournament to decide which universe is going to get destroyed. Turns out that no one is getting destroyed, but you know, at this point, all the universes are going to get together from different dimensions, if you will, and they have to battle for their dimension to not get destroyed. So Goku gathers his people, all of the other dimensions gather their people, and then we get back into like a tournament type fight. And it was the execution was bad, the idea was good, right? Because this tournament offered some limitations which could have like taken us away. from a lot of these overpowered transformations and fights that we had seen, right? At this point, Dragon Ball Z needed to be a little bit more grounded. But in here, Goku is obviously the leader. He's gathering everybody. He reaches not only Super Saiyan God, which is Super Saiyan, and then Super Saiyan Blue, which is like a Super Saiyan of the Super Saiyan God. And then he also reaches and gets Ultra Instinct, which is by far the most unique form that we had gotten in quite a long time. This was a very, very exciting time for the community. Vegeta is somewhere in there. He fights like the last boss that they have to fight, but obviously he loses and he passes the baton to Goku. Goku eventually ends up winning, and that's pretty much the end of the anime. It continues on in the manga, but not a lot of people really care. But so that's super low tier in a lot of people's opinion, including my own. And then we fast forward now to Daima, and in Daima, Goku, we take a page out of GT, a non-canon animation that happened, and Goku gets turned back into a kid. And in here, this is something that is still ongoing, just started, but Goku has to travel to the demon world, and he is actually trying to revert everybody that got turned into a kid back to normal. This is going to be more of an adventure anime from what we can see so far. And that's pretty much the story of Goku up until this point, dragging on like what, 20 plus years, 25 plus years. I've been watching Goku in this anime since I was a kid. And yeah, I really think that this is how Goku is going to affect this election coming up. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, just want to remind you that we must persevere. Peace.